Welcome to the Union Fitness Podcast, everybody. My name's Jared. Joining us today is Ashley Koltonski.
Hello.
And we also have Curtis jumping in as well.
Am I in? Am I live? Where am I?
All right.
We see your beautiful
Welcome,
face.
guys.
A little shiny.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. As always, it's cool to have a guest and a member here from Union Fitness with us today. Ashley has a really cool story, and it's something that I think would benefit a lot of people. She's bringing a lot from the yoga world into her training here at Union Fitness. Ashley came in back in July of last year, right?
Yeah.
So you came in July of last year. We met. We talked about getting you into personal training.
Mm-hmm.
Now, up until that point, had you ever had a personal trainer before?
Never. I thought I knew how to work out on my own at the gym.
Second. So, I should explain this. This is on me. Our mics don't go through the top; they go through the front.
Oh.
That.
Okay.
It's just
Oh, shit.
Tilt there too.
Can you hear me
should be
better
fine,
from
big
here?
guy. What?
Can you hear me better from here?
So do we have to start over?
Nope. I'm just gonna cut to Ashley, and she's gonna pick up with that question that you just gave. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've never worked with a personal trainer before. I thought I knew how to work out, throw some weights around here and there. But never one-on-one, and I was kind of having some pandemic blues, and I wanted to do something different, so I came in and met with you guys, and I was shopping around with different places, and I just loved the environment here, and I love working with Cody. It's been absolutely life-changing. Yeah.
Shout out to Cody.
Yeah,
Cody Miller, the man,
best.
who has a powerlifting meet coming up,
Yes.
and we hope that he does really well. We love Cody, and he's a good dude.
Cody's a man.
Very intelligent, and I'm sure you've gotten to experience that firsthand.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, if you ever have to move and you have another trainer, it's not going to be the same.
I've thought about that lately. I've been like, I don't know. It's not. We have such a great connection, and he's very philosophical, which I think speaks to like my yoga-esque mind. So, yeah, it's gonna be sad if
Yeah.
I ever move.
Yep. Now, I want to talk about what in your mind got you to want to take that leap and be cool with weight training. Because the reason I ask that, a lot of people that I've met that come from the yoga world are very passionate about just the yoga world. And just like, vice versa, coming from the strength training world, that's kind of where most people stick to, and they're scared to venture outside that
Yeah.
box into yoga.
So hopefully today we can blend and bridge the gap a little bit between both worlds, because yeah, I don't think you're wrong. For me, fitness, I've always loved fitness in many forms, playing sports growing up, whatever, nothing ever serious. Yoga is probably the first thing that really, really became such an integral part of my life, like 14 years ago. But interested in personal training because I think you can always learn and grow, and I really wanted to build muscle. And I didn't know how to do that on my own. I could try, but I wasn't seeing the results. I don't think I was pushing myself. I think the biggest takeaway working with someone one-on-one is they're able to watch your every move and really push you and also motivate you. You can go to the gym and your body always takes the path of least resistance, right? So going to the gym, I just didn't have that discipline built yet to push myself on my own and really see big results and feel like I'm getting stronger, and also someone tracking my weights so I'm going up and up and like
Sure.
making progress that
Yep.
I'm seeing. So that's like, I've never squatted more than like I can do right now.
Right.
And like, I'm not even like that crazy good. You guys can like triple squat what I do, but it's phenomenal to feel those accomplishments in a strength world. I've just never thought I could do what I'm doing.
Sure.
Right
Do you feel that like some of the strength training stuff you're doing with Cody has carried over into like your yoga practices
Absolutely.
at all? And
Absolutely.
in what ways is that?
So just stronger core, stronger overall body strength. And then Cody and I've given him kind of specific goals that I do want to reach in my yoga practice. So it's been a good blend of, I want to be able to do a static handstand. I want to be able to like hold that, and it's building arm and shoulder strength and
Mhm.
core strength. So all of the things that we're doing here, and we're working, and he'll you know, I'm kicking up to a wall and he's timing me. So he's blending in my personal goals of what I want to do with my yoga practice into the lifting world
Sure.
here.
And that takes a special trainer.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh, for
mean? So
sure.
like your average trainer isn't going to be able to understand that, and I think that's a testament to his dedication to
Yes.
the field, his education, learning, evolving. I don't. He might have never done. I don't know if he's ever done yoga. You know what I mean? But he is intelligent enough to know that he needs to find out certain things
Mhm.
for you to apply to it. So
He's
that-
very creative in finding. I'll send him videos of, like, I follow all these yoga people on Instagram, and then he follows people who do different flexibility and mobility exercises. So he's pulling that in to
Mhm.
our practice together here, which has been awesome.
sure.
Are you
Now,
gonna make him do the handstand with you?
yeah.
You know, it's funny because you know, we've joked, and even with you, Kurt, like, could you do this, like, pigeon pose lift thing? I just think it's so funny to think about these really big, strong guys doing yoga, which I think you guys should all try to
Yeah,
do more yoga in your life. And
So I mean, I've talked to you about it before. I don't know exactly how long ago it was. Maybe 6 years ago or so. The gym where I used to work, YMCA in Denton, Maryland, shout out, gave me the chance. They had a yoga class, and at the time I had just started diving into powerlifting, but not enough. I was doing it like more recreational, and our yoga instructor said, "Hey, I think it would benefit you to come in here." So I never knew what it was. I started going in there. At the time, one of my bigger challenges with everything going on was my sleep. Now, she said, I want you to take these practices, what I'm teaching you in here, and think about, you're laying down. And when you lay down in bed at night, go over, recite the things that I'm saying and the things that you're feeling, and you'll fall asleep. You won't remember falling asleep when you wake up the next morning. And it was happening.
did it work?
It worked. So like she
So
would.
it's like a little meditation.
It was, yeah. She would end. It was probably a softer yoga.
Yeah.
I don't know which form it was,
Yeah.
but at the end we would lay down, and she would say things like, feel the sun come across your face, and you're laying down on a cloud. So I'm laying down at night, and I'm like feeling the sun go across my face, and I'm
visualizing it.
visualizing
Yeah.
it, and I would fall asleep. I would not wake up once, and then I would wake up in the morning and not remember falling asleep. And that's something I did it for months. I'm sure something happened, where like I was like, oh, I'll get back to it, and you just never do.
Yeah.
And I need to get back to that.
Yeah.
How do you think, for Jared and I, who are lifters and we compete and things like that, how do you think it would benefit us?
So many ways. I think yoga is good for every single body on the planet, even if you have injury, even if you're disabled, even if you're a man, a woman, any age, all of that. So yoga is such a beautiful practice because it's individual, and it just is. I don't want to say it's easy. I want to say that it's because you can, at different degrees, you can make it really, really tough, really strength training version of yoga, power yoga. It can also be gentle, yin, restorative, calming yoga. So for anyone who's into their body and building any strength or relaxation, or just taking care of their body in general, why wouldn't you do it? Yoga it's a way to slow down. It's a way to become present, which everyone in our world is struggling with right now. We are so overwhelmed in so many ways. And so, the first example you're talking about is a meditation or breathing, breath work. All of those things are so key and vital to our survival. And not only that, flourishing. And if you want to flourish in a fitness sense, yoga is just going to supplement that. Stretching, moving the body. So you guys, you work out, you lift. Do you stretch?
Yeah.
You stretch after or
Well,
before
you're asking
warming
the wrong
up?
you're asking the wrong people here, because I think Jared and I, with our backgrounds, understand the importance of stretching more than most people. So like, if you were to ask
the average
the average
Joe.
person, they're
Yeah.
probably going to say no. But
Yeah.
you know, I spend 3 to 4 nights a week, probably about an hour each night, doing
Yeah.
different things. So I think I would surprise Cody Miller a little bit. Just saying, just saying. But Jared does the same. You know, I see Jared going through multiple drills and stretches before he even gets under a bar. But I think your average person, no. The
Yeah.
answer is going to be no.
I think, like, I would love to talk about, because you guys probably know more about the body, at least you, Jared, just fascia and how that, you know, relates to muscle and muscle building. But to me, so maybe you can give a more technical definition of fascia, but fascia is this, like, connective tissue that wraps around all of our muscles and our skin, like, between our muscles and skin, correct?
Yep.
And so yoga is opening and moving and stretching those places where the fascia gets stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so great. Like, if you take a yoga class and afterwards you feel that, like, just opening, and I call it a yoga high.
Mm-hmm.
You have released all of this stuff in your fascia, and you're making everything move and just breathe better in the body, and that helps with muscle recovery. I mean, I practice yoga to recover my muscles from working out with Cody.
Sure.
I take a hot bath the next 2 nights, get in my room, I'm using a foam roller, and I'm moving and I'm stretching and I'm opening these spots that are stuck, and that's helping my healing. But fascia in general, releasing and opening that, I mean, Jared, you speak to it more, but it's so good for the body.
Yeah, so backtracking a little bit, you had a good definition of fascia. That was good. It's pretty much there so your muscles don't flop through your skin, right? Just
Oh,
hold
that'd
them
be
together.
crazy.
Yeah, that's why we have it.
Halfway cool, but kind of crazy.
Yeah, it would be kind of halfway cool.
Yeah, right.
So, what's really interesting is you talked about kind of releasing those points where you feel like you're stuck, right? So what happens a lot of times is, based on what we do through our days, even like what our mindset is through the day, we can have a physical response to it, and it's a neuromuscular response, where, you know, your muscles can become tight, like under like certain points of like your fascia, right? You don't necessarily form like physical adhesions. That's kind of a misconception I think that people have, but it's a neuromuscular response, and you'll even notice that you get like releases of that when you do like your breathing exercises, right? So just laying there and breathing, you'll notice like, oh wow, you know, my hamstrings all of a sudden feel a lot better than they did before. So going through the practices of yoga and gliding those tissues and using them through their full ranges of motion improves, how do I say this, improves your like neuromuscular activation or response of the musculature itself, and therefore you're gonna flow a lot better, you're gonna feel a lot looser.
Yeah.
So now we have a little bit better understanding of like what the benefits are and how it's beneficial. Why do you think it is that people don't jump into it? Like, what is holding people back from trying it?
Yeah, and I did a little bit of polling before this to like prepare, and I experienced this as a yoga teacher. You know, I teach corporate yoga sometimes in groups where I go into an office and I'm teaching a group, and that's where I see the most men come. I think it's because they're comfortable with, you know, their colleagues, and it's kind of a group thing, which is awesome. But I think I've seen it more difficult for men to jump into a yoga practice than women. I think probably just generally speaking, women have a softer, more feminine, and more just kind of like connected relationship with themselves, so they're just okay with doing that. I don't know. You guys tell me. What do you think? I think men might be intimidated by it. They might not know where to start. They might say, I'm not flexible, so I can't do yoga. Such a huge misconception. I would love to break that idea down, because you don't need to be able to do all of these hard, difficult, crazy poses to start yoga.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yoga can be a forward fold, just touching your toes,
Yeah.
stretching your hamstrings. That is yoga. So just like lifting even, I'm sure that you would encourage anyone who comes through this door and wants to work on training, you're not going to turn them away because they don't know how or they don't know how to do it. The same for yoga. You can come to your mat anytime, no matter where you are, coming out of injury, coming out of personal, emotional trauma, and it's there for you to move your body and exercise, build strength, breathing, all of these amazing benefits that I've experienced.
Yes, sir.
So Other than us, who else practices yoga regularly? Do either of you,
So
Jared or Curtis?
so
I mean, go ahead.
kind of.
Yeah,
I don't like officially practice yoga.
Sure.
same.
But I have like a series of like kind of like a flow that I do to keep myself
Yeah.
like
Sure.
mobile,
Stretches.
strong.
Yeah.
Not I wouldn't even say stretching. Like I just kind of try to transfer from one position to another. I started
Okay.
doing it when I used to wrestle actually.
Okay, so yeah, like a flow state
Yeah,
kind of
and then
scenario.
I just kept it through with powerlifting because I don't like being in pain.
Sure.
Yes, 100%.
So I think I started doing yoga here with Haley
Mm-hmm.
about a year ago. And I think one of the hardest things for me was walking in as a dude in clothes that don't fit when I bend over.
Got
Like
Mm.
that's a really weird thing, but like
Interesting.
it was super insecure because I wore gym shirts and a t-shirt. Next thing
Sure.
I know, my shirt's over my head and I'm like, my
Sure.
belly's hanging out and I'm like, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
And you're around, a bunch of women most
Yeah.
of the time and you're like, I don't feel comfortable with this at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
That's
interesting.
fair.
That-
That was the toughest thing for me to get over. Like I was wearing layers and I was tucking stuff into stuff and like taping it to me to make sure it wouldn't come down.
Clearly,
I mean,
you need leggings.
well,
Right?
like I needed a whole onesie is what I needed.
Singlet.
Let's get you in a singlet.
stretchy singlet
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what I needed.
So, like, to be serious for a second, I think that one is there's a misconception of what yoga is, right? The visual of yoga that we see are in shape people
Yes.
who have been doing this for years, who can
Yeah.
fold themselves in the pretzels. So from a male's perspective, now I understand what yoga can be and what it actually is,
Mhm.
but your average person, that's what it's like. It's like somebody like yourself thinking about coming into the strength lab
Mhm.
for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think that's the role of it. And then the other thing is, even if people know that that's not exactly how it is, they don't realize the benefits of it until they need it.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is, with just my routine that I have, I didn't realize how much I needed it until I had to do it in order to get back under just a unloaded bar to be able to squat.
Mm.
So I think for some people, it's one of those things, and just like Jared experiences at work, it's people don't do things until it's too late
Yeah.
Mhm.
instead of being like proactive. So I think that's another thing with yoga is, people will not see the benefit of it, and so they don't think they need it.
Mhm.
When in reality, they almost pass out bending over tying their shoes in the morning,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but because they lift 600 pounds, that's okay.
I think that's kind of also like, I think a lot of guys avoid yoga. Kind of piggybacking off of that is just it's the testosterone. Like it's not tough. If
Mhm.
people see me doing this, it's like I don't want to call it like a feminine thing or something, but a lot of guys have that like weird pride with something like that,
Mhm.
and they can't get over it, and they know they won't be good at it immediately, but they can move weights in
Yeah.
the gym. So going in there, there's a lot to.
Which is hilarious because you should go to like a hot power yoga class because like that shit is rough. Like
Yeah,
it
sure.
is not
Yeah.
easy.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it's one of the, like, I'm going to be honest, I'm sure there are yoga classes that are more challenging than a workout that we go through.
Oh my god.
You know,
know what I
else?
mean?
It's funny too because a lot of the challenge for people in yoga, and this is part of it. So yoga is uniting. It means to yoke. It means to unite, and it's uniting your mind, body, and spirit together as one and balancing that. And so it's just funny because the hardest part of a yoga class for most people is the mind aspect of it. It's the meditation, it's the sitting still, it's sitting down
Sure.
and breathing and not doing anything else. How hard is it to sit for 5 minutes and meditate?
Yeah.
It's
That's
hard.
why it's tough.
Right.
And so men can, I'm not going to say everyone, men can come into the class and sit there and like, okay, so I didn't get this like massive workout and I'm pissed off because I hate sitting there and I'm breathing and but you know what? Lean into that. I mean, how often are you doing lifts that you hate?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of what you need.
Yes. 100%. 100%.
I love that.
Yeah. 100%. I mean,
That's
it's like,
awesome.
think about everything else in life that's the same way. What promotes growth? Being uncomfortable, going into challenging situations, maybe that you don't want to do or that you can't do.
Yeah.
And the thing is I think coming from a lifter's mindset, a majority of people who power lift or lift weights in general are hobbyists. Okay, so they don't necessarily have the goals of doing whatever they have to do to be the best that they can. So in their mind, they don't want to put themselves in that uncomfortable situation because they just want to come in and hang out and lift some weights with their friends. Whereas Jared and I, with our backgrounds and our goals within lifting, we understand that these things are going to keep us healthier. It's going to keep us safer under weights and help us lift for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And that's just so I think that's where the line is.
Yeah, those are good points. Those are definitely good points. I just keep coming back to what it's done for me in my life is so much more mental and spiritual and emotionally supportive,
Sure.
because it is this space. I call a yoga mat, it's like a mother's love. Okay, you can always come back to it and it'll always love you. No matter what you do, no matter if you don't do yoga for 5 years, you can always come back to it and always build your practice and keep moving. But not only that, it's something that it forces you to slow down. It forces you to get really aware of yourself on a spiritual level, and in funny ways too, like you don't expect it. So we talk about in our hips. Our hips are a place of, you talk about energy getting stuck, or your emotional body holding things in. Our hips are a source where we hold on to a lot of deep emotions and a lot of just emotions that we're experiencing. So some people come into yoga classes and they have this release. I've cried at the end of yoga classes because something has moved and something has shifted or left my body and my, what it was holding on to, and you have an emotional reaction to that. So yeah, I know that, and you guys, it's funny, even just talking to two guys, you guys keep coming back to like the physical benefits, but I really want to hit home with the emotional and spiritual benefits of yoga are just so much more important. And that's why I keep coming back. And that's what has brought me through so much in my life is getting on my mat, sweating it out. And we know too, we all can agree, moving your body, coming into the gym, if you're stressed or you're pissed off, you come into the gym, you feel a million times better after.
Yeah.
Same thing with yoga, but it's just different and it's gentle, and you can really, the variety of yoga, I don't know, it's just,
I feel like you can like lean into it more.
I don't know how people don't do it. I know I'm like, and even if it's 10 minutes after a shower or something, or getting up and picking 3 days a week where you do like 3 sun salutations. And if you don't know what that is, literally just Google it and find it, or find someone that can teach you yoga. Go to a beginner's yoga class. People get intimidated by the beginning or how to start or how to like get there. Just do it. Just like any other thing that you do, just walk into the gym. Just start moving your body.
Yeah.
Start somewhere.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think with me, the last 2 years, kind of ever since I really moved up here to Pittsburgh, I've been around really knowledgeable people. And I've seen the benefits of mental aspects, meditation, visualization, things like that, and how it's benefited my training. And it's had, huge positive benefits. But it's more related to this in the gym than people even realize, because it's the same thing. Like you just said it, when you come in here to the gym, you do it for, because it's mental. You feel better when you leave. If you're pissed off from the day or whatever, it's legitimately no different than what you can learn in what you can be taught through yoga. And they go hand in hand. They're almost meant to work together.
Yeah.
But they're not. But they're not. Like, a lot of our members who take yoga aren't really into weight training at all. And I think it's kind of like when I was working in physical therapy, when I was a tech, there were a lot of physical therapists and a lot of personal trainers who didn't get along. It was like this weird triangle with
It's still that way.
it's
Really?
chiropractics, physical therapy, and personal training. And none of them really want to exist with each other.
Don't get me on that soapbox.
We'll save that for another one. All right, that'll be our next episode. But I think what I would love to see is that unity.
Oh man,
between
it's
yoga.
so good for me. I'll speak for a moment just on little things that have helped me in my training here that I've brought with me from my yoga practice. One I think is awareness of just my body, right? My form. So in yoga, you're very, there's flexibility in form, but it's structured. You want to do poses. There are square hip postures, there are open hip, and like as a yoga teacher, that's what you're helping people just move into their bodies more structurally and supportively. So I've brought that into my training with Cody. I feel like like he's taught me basics of these lifts, but I'm very aware of my body. I'm very particular, tucking my tailbone. Like I just feel like I have that set up because I practice yoga. Another thing is my breath work. Very, very particular on breathing, and I do that when I'm getting tired and when I'm very focused in my lifts. And I'm using that to fuel my energy and recovery in that moment, in that hour session with Cody.
Sure.
Definitely got that from yoga.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I think is really helped me, there's this thing called dristi. It's called your gaze. Do you know of this word in yoga?
Nope.
So when you go into like a standing posture or any balancing posture, the teacher might say like find something in the room to focus on that isn't moving. It's a dristi. It's your gaze basically, and you want to like focus on something, and that helps you kind of stabilize and just have better balance in that moment. So I do that with lifting. I found myself like I get super focused. I cannot talk while I'm lifting. You guys do that too, but
Sure.
The first maybe 3 months working with Cody, I barely talked to him because I was so in that moment and present with learning how to do it properly. And so my dristi, my gaze, when I'm in there and I'm like really focused and I'm focusing on my breath and I'm bringing all of that practice from yoga into my lifts, and I think it's benefited me.
Sure.
So they should cross-pollinate. They're the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, it's great to hear like a different perspective on it. You know what I mean? Because most people who take yoga that I ask, they only know the yoga aspect, the yoga side, how that's benefiting them. But you've recently, seen the benefits from both sides, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend that, someone, I think we kind of backtracking a hair, people probably want to start yoga, but you said don't know how to start. And there's so many different kinds of yoga, and it's not really, nobody's really educated on what's what or what to jump into. So could you kind of like, how would I start out? Like, where should somebody start? What are the differences?
Of course. So there's so many styles of yoga. I will say I was trained in Vinyasa yoga, which is movement with breath. Vinyasa is linking movement with breath. So it's a basic flow class, if you hear that term thrown around. But it's really every cue or every cue into a pose, inhale, exhale, do this, inhale, do that. So that's what I teach, and that's what I think is like a good general yoga to go to. It's tough right now because of COVID. So many studios are closed or not doing in-person things, because I just highly recommend when you're getting started to be in person and getting that experience. So find a gym, find a yoga studio that is open.
I know one.
Like Union Fitness.
And we do practice vinyasa with Haley. That
There
is
we
what
go.
she teaches.
There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We practice vinyasa and yin, which I'm guessing you're going to touch on as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of minored in restorative, and restorative and yin are both very, very slow. You're doing, sometimes in a yin or restorative class, you can do 3 poses for an hour class. So you're sitting in a pose for a very long time. And the benefits of that, with restorative yoga, so we recommend restorative for people with trauma, people with injury, elderly people who don't have a lot of, ability to move at a fast pace like vinyasa. Restorative is so beautiful, and I love doing like a restorative class on a Sunday night, get me kind of prepared for the week. But you're using a lot of props like bolsters and pillows and blankets. You're keeping the body really warm. I used to teach a restorative class actually, and you're sitting in a pose, but you're super supported in that pose. But it's letting the muscles relax and letting the pose still take shape in the body, and there's like this healing energy kind of coming from the pose in a long period of time. Yin is a little bit different. It's a little bit more active because you're getting into like ligaments, and you're kind of a little more active in the pose, but you're still holding it in a long period. Yin is tougher for me mentally because it's just, which means I should be doing it more, but it is uncomfortable for me to get into those like deep hips for a long period of time. But there's all kinds. So back to your question, to get started, I recommend find someone that's doing it in person. Find a basic level 1 or beginner's yoga class. Talk to the instructor before the class. I'm new. Hopefully, if they're a good teacher, they're welcoming you with open arms, and they're like, do you have any injuries? Do you have any concerns? Like, let me know what's going on in your body. Because yoga, as most sports and activities, we're not here to create injury. We don't want to harm the body. So it's really up to you, and that's that relationship you're building, that awareness within yourself, and understanding, okay, this doesn't feel good. There's a point of discomfort. Can you sit in that discomfort, or are you in pain? Like, there's that boundary. So you have to really tune in and get really present with what's going on in your body. So talk to the instructor, tell them you're a beginner, tell them you're new. Maybe stand in the back so you can see people, but go with a friend, get someone to like support you. There's also a lot of teachers who offer, one-on-one sessions. And before, if you're super intimidated going to a class, pay for a one-on-one session or two and get like some basic things down and then go. But there's also a lot of free stuff on YouTube, like Yoga with Adrian. And I mean, just Google. I always, when I teach private sessions, I teach the Surya Namaskar A, which is Sun Salutation A. Movement, breath, that basic sequence. You get the flow from standing to downward facing dog, and that flow through. So
where did you say you could find that one more time? What's that place you can go online? What's it called? That search? YouTube? People forget about YouTube. My goodness.
I just talked about this. YouTube is the second largest search engine.
Exactly.
Next to Google.
It's like, and I love everybody. I love everybody that comes to us for help. But it's like sometimes you get that question and it's like, hey, what is this?
Yeah.
Hey, check this out.
Yeah. I'm
going to send you a video this time, but next time you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's free good stuff.
I mean, come on, it's 2021. We can find a lot of free information on the web.
You can also find this podcast on YouTube. Please enjoy the visual version of the Union Fitness podcast.
There we go.
So at least I know with physical therapy, I get this all the time. New patients come in and they go, I YouTubed what I had going on and what to do for it, and now I'm like way worse off because there's a lot of like garbage out there. I know that's the case for a lot of like lifting stuff. Is that the case for yoga too? Like, are there things you need to like? What are the red flags, I guess, people can look for?
Good question, Jared.
That's a great question. I think that is why I kind of recommended going into an in-person class, because a good instructor is really circling the room and looking around and adjusting you. Because sometimes it's not even that you're watching something and what you're watching is wrong. You just don't know that you're doing it wrong. Just like that's why I'm doing personal training.
Yep.
You have someone there who's literally watching your every move and adjusting your hips, or like your knee is too far over your toes or whatever it is. So same kind of experience in a yoga class, where that qualified instructor is going to be able to train you on your form and alignment so that you're just protecting your body. When you're in a forward lunge and your knee is shooting super far over your ankle, over time you're damaging that knee. You want to pull that knee and have it directly over the ankle. So there are just things like that a good instructor will help you with.
Now, Jared, you talked about your patients. Have you found that maybe incorporating yoga poses or yoga practice helps them with their recovery, or maybe speeds it up, or builds an imbalance or strength or something like that?
Yeah, so I actually use a lot of like basic yoga poses with a lot of my patients. I do a lot of like I'll do downward dogs. I'll do like cobra poses. I do flows into both of those. I do a lot of like child's poses, like cat. Is it cat camel pose?
Cat
It can
cow.
be whatever
Cat
you
cow,
want.
yeah.
Cat and
Is
whatever
camel
you want.
something different? Somebody
Yes.
corrected me
Yeah,
on that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay, thank
Camel.
you. I do actually a lot of like the warrior poses.
Yeah.
What I like to do. So you talked about like finding your gaze, right?
Yeah.
So I have people like stand in a warrior pose. We focus on like diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll even like put like a little band around them to help them like cue them to breathe, right? And I'll have them hold that pose. And then what I'll do then too is like once they can stay steady there, I'll give them like little perturbations. Like I'll kind of push down on an arm, push them forward, push them backwards, and make them like stabilize through that pose. I like to do it when they don't have their shoes on either, so they can kind of find their feet in the ground. And I also actually do it sometimes when people can progress well enough with like eyes closed, so I get a lot of balance patients and stuff.
Yes.
So, like, we have 3 systems of balance: your visual, somatosensory, and your vestibular. By taking one away, the other 2 have to work a lot harder.
What?
And I find that, you know, when you take away, people become overly reliant on their visual
Yeah.
input for balance, and we tend to really, really, like, focus on something. That's how, for example, a lot of elderly stay balanced because their somatosensory system isn't so good. If someone has, like, diabetes, their somatosensory system, like, through their feet is not great at all. So I actually use a lot of eyes closed stuff and make them stabilize and, like, breathe and, like, really feel the ground through that. And I get a lot of really, really good results through that.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
You just said a bunch of words I never heard before, so that's cool.
Wait, Cody hasn't told you those words? Cody, wait till we talk. You got to step your game up.
No, but that totally makes sense. And I love that you're talking about the feet and you said you take shoes off.
Mhm.
So in my yoga training, I was so fortunate and blessed to work with a energy healer, Ward Grossman. And he has a book, and I don't know if he's still like doing workshops or whatever, but we spent like 5 hours just working on our feet.
That's amazing.
We took, you know, you're not wearing shoes and socks
Yep.
in a yoga studio anyways, but different pressure points, massaging the feet, basically like energizing the feet, working the toes between the toes, on top of the feet, doing all this stuff. And we would do one foot and then kind of walk around the room and just feel the difference.
Yeah.
And you just feel this activation and energy in the foot that you just, you know, were working on versus
Sure.
the other. So you know, all of that stuck energy can even get stuck in our feet. Every morning now when I shower, every morning, literally to this day, I massage and scrub my feet because I feel, even if it's like a placebo effect at this point, I feel like
doesn't
I'm
matter.
more connected
Yep.
that morning because I've like done yoga on my feet pretty much in the morning in my shower.
Now, I don't want to continuously come back to lifting and powerlifting and things like that, but you both just said 2 things that are huge for lifting safely and being as strong as possible: diaphragmatic breathing and your feet. And I'm going to tell you the 2 biggest things that have made an impact on my ability to get to the point that I am are my breathing and my feet. So the couple injuries I've had in the past, I realized it was because I was not connecting my upper body to my lower body. So in squatting, I think you made a comment on one of my squat videos about, you know, how I was bracing. And that came because I was breathing up in here for so long. And when I learned to bring it down here and pull it into my hips and almost connect my lat muscles to my torso, that's when I realized what stability and balance and rigidity was. Now, the other thing that was missing, how being connected to the floor. I always thought about the lift being starting from your head down to the floor. So in my mind, the way that I taught myself was your checklist. Where's your head? Where's your shoulders? Where's your chest? What are you doing with your midsection, your hips, your knees, and then your feet? By the time you get to that, you don't care about your feet.
Sure.
Right? So I kind of, and now after I got injured a few times, I started lifting barefoot because I don't know if I heard it somewhere or if I just thought it or if I felt it maybe, but I realized that I was missing something. My feet were rolling a lot when I was lifting and I just wasn't connected. First time I lifted without shoes on, now you have to be careful obviously because you can break toes. The first time I lifted without shoes on, I felt like I had never really done the movement before because I was getting this new sensory input that I had never felt, that my body realized, wow, I need this. I need to do this. So it took me months and months and months, and even up to this point, years, to realize that I need to open my toes. I use 3 points of pressure on my foot. 2 points under the balls of your feet, your big toe and your pinky, and then your heel. And if you think of those as 3 points of contact that you can open up and grab the floor with, you can control all the tension that's going up through your body from that.
Yeah.
And that's something that is huge in powerlifting that is missed a lot, because we see it as, if we're squatting, we're putting the bar on our back, squatting down, standing up, right? But it's so much more than that. It's about proper breathing, your feet, your balance, things like that. So just to, long story short, it goes hand in hand.
I think the feet thing is something we as an entire like culture have issues with, because if you think about it, when we grow up, and Warren talked about this in my training, our feet are constantly shoved into shoes.
Yes.
Unless you lived out, I actually did grow up out on a dirt road in the country.
Holla.
Like, unless you were, we need to walk on the earth more, basically, is his concept. Like, barefoot, walk in the grass, walk on dirt, walk on rocks, grow some more muscles on the feet, because our feet are pushed into shoes, and then we usually outgrow them, depending on, I guess, how fortunate your parents are to get you new shoes as you're growing up. But a lot of us have like really messed up toes, and like my brother had shoes too small for him playing football, and his toes are nasty, and like they're kind of just deformed and gross.
What's
but
up, brother?
We
now
need
I know you got nasty feet.
we need to like just the emphasis on the importance of our feet is understated in general, not just for powerlifting.
Sure.
But yoga is a nice way to do that too, because you do walk into the studio, and you don't have to, but it'd be nice if you took your shoes and socks off and connect with your mat. I do try to do some poses like chair pose or whatever, and lift your toes off the mat.
Yeah.
That forces you to stabilize on the 3 points of your feet that you just spoke about. Trying to do that in different exercises just as a little test, but it forces you to ground your feet down, lifting the toes. So there's a lot of cool exercises to do for stability.
And there's something that feels good about having no shoes on. Like, remember when you were growing up, walking in the grass, you can still feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like when you feel it, you can smell it too.
Yeah.
I don't want to get off topic, but like just being bare feet for 10 minutes a day, not just on your carpet or hardwood floor, like out in the environment. I think that's something that's really important, like you said.
Be careful on the north side of Pittsburgh.
Where are you going to find grass around here?
Or like grass that's not covered in stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Union Fitness little
Oh, yeah,
patch of
yeah,
grass
yeah.
out here.
Real clean patch of grass.
And you're allowed to walk on it. Just don't take your dog on it.
Yeah.
Come to Union Fitness, take your shoes off, go walk on the grass we have out here.
And then
You'll be
take a
good.
yoga class.
And then take a yoga class.
And then work out.
Yes.
You can do it all here.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions for you.
Hit me.
All right. What are some, and we touched on this a little bit, some modifications that you would do for somebody who maybe comes in, maybe it's, somebody like myself, walks in to your class and you ask me to get in certain positions and I just can't do it because I'm so stiff.
Yeah.
How would you approach that? Would you just, and I know you wouldn't, but like, would you just say, oh, he'll figure it out? Or would you actually come up, work with me, and help find the best position for me at that time? How would you approach that?
Great question. So pre-COVID, because I know some yoga studios right now are really not using props because of just germs and whatever.
Sure.
But so pre-COVID, act like this is normal life, which we'll get back to someday. Blocks, bolsters, blankets. Okay, these props are your friends. They're not your enemies. So the whole Instagram world of yoga, it's just, I know we're all sucked into it, but I think you mentioned this earlier. We all see these like super fancy poses and everyone's looking beautiful and they're so like elite in their yoga poses.
Yeah.
But if you need to do a forward fold with your hands on 2 blocks at the highest level, that is still yoga. Like that is still okay. And you need to let go. We all need to let go of the judgment. And that's another lesson in yoga, that we're not supposed to think so black and white and think like, oh, I'm a bad yogi because I can't touch the ground. Let that go. Like let that ish go from your mind, because I'm trying not to swear so much because I'm just trying to be proper on this show.
It's fine. Just let it out.
But coming in, and that's why it's a beautiful individual practice. And maybe that's another reason, I'm jumping around here, but that men might not love it so much because men are typically a little more competitive, right? So
Yeah.
yoga is not competitive
Sure.
at all. You come in, you're on your little 3 by 7 foot mat space. It does not matter what anyone else is doing. It doesn't matter if someone's doing a handstand in the back and you're doing a forward fold with blocks. Like, you are there for yourself. So as a teacher, we want to support that. We want to support like where you're at on your yoga journey, so to speak, or even it can change day to day. Some days I have days where I'm like, I'm awesome and I'm killing it. And then other days, like, I just had a meltdown yesterday and like, I can barely do anything on my yoga mat.
Right.
So it's back to that awareness of where you're at and accepting that without judgment. And then as a teacher, you're supporting that with blocks. So whether it's a forward fold or you're in a lunge and you can't get your hands to the mat, using blocks to hold yourself up and really working on the form and structure with your shoulders back instead of hunched over and laying against your bent leg. So, you know, there's a lot of, I can't answer the question so specifically because it would depend on, you know, the pose and the practice. Yeah, but that's why that in-person experience of going to a yoga class, that teacher's able to come and help you and give you cues. And maybe, so when I teach, I offer all levels, which means you can come in never going to a yoga class before, or you can come in as a very experienced yogi. And I can read the room and just tell, like, more experienced yogis kind of know that they can go into a class. And if I'm teaching basics and their practice is more elevated, I mean, have at it. Do your thing. Like, as long as I'm not seeing you hurt yourself, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for a more advanced pose or do something a little bit deeper. And then I'm over there helping the beginners or people kind of move into the pose respectfully for their body and shape and where they're at. So there's just so much that you can do. That's why it's such a lovely practice.
Sure.
Because you can really come from any point of experience.
Can I take a time out real quick? Can we've done stuff live before, right? Can
Yeah.
we have like him or me or like her put us in a position, like do something?
Put me in
yoga-wise
something.
live? Yeah, put
I
him
hope
in
Cody
something.
Miller's
Cool.
watching. Put me in something.
Like, is that, yeah. And
What
then
are we
just, like,
doing?
as you go through it, can you like talk kind of, because this is also a podcast, kind of like talk through what you're doing, like
Yeah.
the position you're putting him in, what he's doing, how you're cueing him, what to do.
I'm going to take my shoes off.
So I don't have to worry about the mic, I guess, at this point, or
Hang on a second.
okay.
There's gonna be a little bit of a shift.
Woo!
Sorry to do this to you, Josh.
Nope, this was a great idea.
I think it'd be better if you did it, Kurt, since you asked the question. And you're bigger than me, and I'm
Let's
bendier than
see.
you.
I want to do.
All right.
I'm sweaty
Move
sitting on
these
that couch.
chairs a little bit here. All right, is that enough space? I can get
You're
out of
going to
the
be
way here.
5:30, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you need me completely out of the picture, Josh?
No, you can be wherever you want.
I'm gonna use this.
We have like yoga blocks and stuff out there if you want to run out and get some. Would
I'm
that
gonna
be
use
more
this.
beneficial? Okay.
Wow.
Just to show that you
Okay.
can improvise.
Use
with what
anything.
you
I
got.
love it.
Hang on. I'm sorry.
She's like, for Curtis, it should be this tall.
Nothing wrong with that.
Here, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of this camera guy action.
Beautiful.
And let me get that here. And then
Do you want to stand right here, Kurt?
How?
The face
We're
me.
just gonna hope.
Okay.
We're gonna hope, and if I need to cut it out of the podcast, I will. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
Do you
all mics are on.
so just talk loud and
Just talk loud, and you and I are quiet unless you talk into a mic. Cool? Awesome. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so we'll just do a little sun A. So inhale, arms overhead. Let the shoulders relax down the back. Yeah, good. Exhale, forward fold. So hinge at the hips, forward fold. And then we'll just see So this is a point. Now release the head and neck. Yeah, shake the head yes and no. So this is a good example. If you can't reach, you use whatever you have. Put this here, hands on that prop. So that can be a stack of books, a box, a yoga block if you have it. Good. Now bend the knees. Let the hands come to the floor. So bend the knees till your hands are flat. Yeah.
Where do you want them?
And then step the feet back to plank pose, which is push-up pose. Good. Now, pull your right knee forward between the hands and plant the foot down.
Plant the foot?
Yep. So like a lunge, we're coming into a lunge. Yeah, so this is another part where he doesn't have that flexibility to pull the leg all the way through. So heel toe and just wiggle your foot forward. And then you can bring your hands onto two blocks to support getting into that pose.
So I'd be closer.
Exactly.
So would I have something that maybe is a little shorter, or is this like the height that I would need?
So I would keep walking your foot forward. Yeah, so the heel is under the knee. And then you can come up to stand to straighten the back. And then, but yeah, if you fold over that leg, this is a perfect spot for you to have blocks.
Okay. Got it.
So you feel that nice long spine all the way back to the heel.
Yep.
Straighten the left leg. And then hips are square, so pull the left hip towards the front. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a scissoring action.
Big stretch there.
So I'm able to walk around him and see and support, but this is, not as much flexibility in the hips, using your props to help you still keep the integrity of the shape.
Got it.
That makes sense.
Beautiful.
All right, let's go back to where we were
Loved
sitting.
it.
Awesome.
That was amazing.
Can
I'm sweating.
we just do a little, like, ask Jared, or Jared ask Curtis, like, why don't you two demonstrate for us?
Oh, okay.
Just as, so I have like something, so it's like,
Blended in.
Yeah.
something to blend in.
We good to just start going?
Hang on a sec.
I'm sweating.
We gotta get in position here.
Yeah, get back in front of your mics. I think everybody looks good. Go ahead.
All right. So, do you think you guys could demonstrate for us?
Like
Yeah.
you want me to demonstrate?
Well, yeah. Better you than me.
All right. Let's fire it up.
Show you how to use some props.
Perfect. Continue on with your conversation.
All right. I don't even know where. All right.
So the moral of the story is props are not an enemy.
Sure.
There to be used, just like in lifting, right? Those
Yes.
straps on the wrist, I don't know what they're called, but I can lift way more with those straps.
Yeah. So I have one more question for you before we wrap everything up. This is something I've never really thought about until recently when two of my really good friends are about a month away from having their first child.
Mm.
Have you worked with people who are pregnant? Is yoga something good for pregnancy?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we dive into it a little bit?
Yeah, I won't give specifics because I don't want anyone to sue me for like giving wrong information as far as that. But yes, you can practice yoga as a woman who's pregnant with the blessing of your doctor, I would say, and under medical advisement. When you come into a yoga class and you're pregnant, you want to absolutely 100% make sure the yoga teacher knows. It can be really beneficial. There are prenatal yoga classes specifically for that, but there are a lot of modifications that you can do to support what's happening in the belly. So in your first trimester, the biggest thing that you want to avoid is twists, because you're actually harming that area where something's trying to incubate and stay and grow. So the twisting action is kind of a purge for the body. So you just want to avoid that. And there are other things too, like you just really want to be conscious and aware of how you're feeling and how your body's doing. There are some women who are super trained and just have a really strong core, and they're able to do handstands and inversions and things like that. I wouldn't be doing any crazy new poses as a pregnant woman that you have not done before,
Sure.
being pregnant.
Yeah. Yep.
So you really want to just use what your practice already is and just be very conscious of how you're feeling. Using props, restorative classes are really, really nice for women who are pregnant. yeah, I think it's still super beneficial for the emotional well-being of that person.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Jared, you got anything to add?
No, I actually learned a lot through this.
Dude,
This was good,
I
especially
learned
'cause,
so
like,
much.
Yeah, I incorporate a lot of yoga into like my practice with a variety of patients. So
Yeah.
this was awesome.
It was great to hear your side of it coming from somebody who has now done both. How it's helped you both physically and mentally throughout your life and the
Yeah.
challenges and becoming who you are now. That's great to hear. And I think more people need to experience this. And I think your story is going to help a lot. So thank you for coming on. And I want to give a shout out to Haley and the rest of the Union Fitness yoga staff here. Everything that Ashley has mentioned today, you know, they're things that we have instructors who have been doing this for years and years and years that specialize in it. So if you're ever around, stop by and see us. We'll give you your first class for free. And Ashley, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Ash_Colt, and I share some yoga stuff there and general well-being. This was a pleasure to be on here. I just really, really encourage everyone to try yoga, try something consistent once a week, once a month, wherever you need to start. That consistency is going to get you far. Breath work, meditation, all those beautiful things will just help.
Heck
Well
yeah.
said. Well said.
Heck yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Ashley, again, thanks for coming on and taking the time to tell us your story.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys soon.
Later.
Bye.